Hi, today I'm going to talk about how to work with programmer as non-developer. There will be four content. The first will be working with programmers and what problem can arise in that situation and why is that a problem, and lastly, how should we resolve it. So this is the example scenarios of our problem. So let's say you're at the other department, but at the same time you're learning about programming in your night or else. So the boss or manager will think that you're the appropriate person to manage the pilot project. So you have to manage not only your own department, but also the software development department to work at that pilot project. So what could happen if you work with developer? So from a non-developers point of view, most of the collaboration with the development team is function suggestions and feedback. If there's no in-house development team in your firm or uh, company, it mainly resolve that problem by outsourcing. In this case, the focus is mainly on also the function suggestions and feedback. So normally the project is keeping this flow. Like for example, do the contract and the the department or the company will start to design how to develop and develop by that design and implement the output by your own system. So normally the man months times time will be the output. This means that man months and time is the primary variable to estimate the outputs. So what problem can arise? So for example, if you work on that software development project, they're always saying like if I had a little more time and budget, I could solve it. But that excuses as are the same, right? So in this is in this slide uh, indicates that even though you're working a really good company, the time and budget required to proceed with the projects are always insufficient. So by that, there's a possibility that the project or outsourcing will not be completed on time. And this is the example of the cats eating drinking the water, but that uh, tap is actually built to serve the humans. So the cat is having a trouble to drink the water. So function meets the conditions. There are some situations that function meets the conditions that is uh, contracted between the clients and developer, but usability is kind of unsatisfactory. So there needs to be done more if you implementing the output output. So why is that? Why is there a problem? So for let's say you're a non-developer and goes into the development department. So all you can see is like bunch of developers. Like you cannot understand what the developers are thinking and what they're doing. So people don't know about how software development works. So in this presentation, we are mainly focus on software development. So there are a lot of characteristics on software department, but in this presentation, I only pick three main characteristics to uh, to present. So first will be like myth of the man months. So unlike the ordinary project, the software development does not guarantee the outcome if you just giving more people on the project. Actually, that kind of behavior uh, makes the project not going really well. So more labor doesn't shorten the schedule. And there are called like 90-90 rule. So that means like if you just solve the 90% of your project on 90% of your work development time, the remaining 10% also could be require 90% of the development time. So that means like we cannot predict the remaining development period by checking the past progress. So the lastly, there could be like emergence of new problem in integration. So let's say if you're making a module and that is passed all the text, that module passed all the test examples, but after that module is implemented on the systems, the the input and output and protocols inside the module could lead to the fatal system error after fatal system errors. That means like you cannot just estimate what could be happen when this module is implemented on the system. So this photo means that, so let's say melon flavor is nice and chicken tastes good. So why don't we just make melon flavor chicken? That would be great. They think, but it is not. It's like taste is really awful. So how should we resolve this problem? The number one solution will be like setting a priority and set the range of variation. So establish the necessary functions and conditions at the start of the project. Prioritize each and limit the scope of variation. So let's say you have to propose the function to the development department. So if you just say like this, like crawl every newspaper articles with a specific word in it as soon as possible, they think like this is really vague to uh, to develop. So the solution will be looks like this. So I want to crawl articles that contain certain words from all the newspapers. Results from this function must be stored in a dictionary in the form of CSV within 150 milliseconds. Please prioritize accuracy over time. The synonyms will be processed in the future. We can proceed, so keep in mind. Please focus on one word for now. Please focus on domestic newspapers rather than on foreign countries. So let's say you give this kind of instructions to the development team. So they will think like, okay, we got the instructions. So at first we will focus on crawling on domestic newspapers with one word on, and that output should be saved in the directory with a form of CSV. And after that, we are expand our project into the international newspaper companies. And lastly, we have to make our codes finish before 150 milliseconds. So if you give this kind of instructions and set a boundary of the functions, they will prioritize what to develop and how to develop by their own method. And second solution will be share intention of the function. So this means developing may result in detailed options that are not initially defined. So explain the content of the situation in which the service will be provided and the intention of the service proposal. So let's say you're working at the stock investing company, and they need like Hang Seng, Nasdaq, and S&P 500 index. So if you just like give the instructions like crawl Hang Seng, Nasdaq, S&P 500 index and give to me by 17 o'clock, like 5 o'clock in Korean time, that is kind of really vague because at that Korean time, the American stock market is not opened, so they cannot just get the real-time stock data on the 5 o'clock. So you have to give instructions like this. Crawl Hang Seng Nasdaq S&P 500 index and give it to me by 5 p.m. So we will use that data to check the global finance trends. So if you just give them the intentions, the developer might think, oh, even though we cannot crawl the Nasdaq and S&P 500 index, they said they want to check the global trends at that time. So that means it is okay to not give them the Hang Seng and Nasdaq and S&P 500 index. So sharing the intention of function when you're giving the instructions. The lastly will be like develop incrementally. Uh, this does not mean that you have to do the incremental development, but you should say like that. So there could be the situation that if you need a function ABC to compose to build system A, you should not give him instructions like this, like please develop system A's detailed function ABC by the Z day, but like this. So it has to be completed by Z day, but A and B must be developed by at least X days and B by Y days. Even if the development is not completed by the Z day, please prepare it so that you can publish it with only the AB function alone. The overall importance of function in this app is ABC. Develop accordingly. When developing, you can freely select the technology within the limit that meets the license. I would appreciate it if you could share your progress with the Trello. So you can understand this part, right? Because you have to set the boundary and not only the functional boundary, but also the development time boundaries. And this part means that you you're the non-developer, so you don't know a lot about the skills or packages. So you should not say really boldly saying that you should use this package and you should use that package. You should not do that. But you have to say, so we are going to make this app really non-profit app or like uh, profit apps. So there will be some situations that needs a certain license, so you should say that. And after that, the developer will just choose whatever they like under that license condition. And lastly, the Trello is kind of issue tracking tools. By this, you don't need to like call or email about the progress. All you need to do is just go to the Trello and see what they did and what they are going to do and what they are doing. And if you just check the a list of what they are doing, you can just give them a really fast reviews or feedbacks about what they're doing. So by that, also you have some kind of literacy to talk with the development team. So that means like uh, you have some knowledge about what they are doing. So you can just tell or understand and have some really more better feedbacks than just like telling them what to do. So there could be error because this PPT is based on some slide share made by the Korean developer with Korean developer. So I'm not just referencing, I cannot find that slide share, so I cannot just referencing it. But if I find or if I found any errors in the PPT, I'll update. So that's it. Thank you for listening.